Yes, Mickey Mouse wishes you a happy 2025 all the way back from 1929 and is now public domain cartoon short, Jungle Rhythm, one of over several intellectual properties reaching that milestone this year that I'll be talking about as we transition into this new year. And thus, intellectual properties within the reach of anyone who has been chomping at the bit to show their take on it. There it is. Welcome to my channel, KC. That's me, Carrie Chug, the Sledge Storyteller. I love talking about storytelling as an art form, its many mediums, and its history. And if you like this video, please click like. If you like this channel, please click subscribe. And while you're at it, make one more click on the notification button. Thank you. So, as United States copyright law stands, an intellectual property owned by a company lands in the public domain in the 95th year afterward. It's a standout year because films with sound were really starting to become the norm. Also, there was increased proliferation of big media icons, starting with...
What's interesting about Popeye is that his universe predates even him. The Thimble Theater comic strip was all about the Oil family, created by cartoonist E.C. Seeger in 1919. Olive oil is only the mainstay, but in the comic strip, there was Olive's parents, Nana and Cole Oil, her older brother Castor, and other members, Celinda Oil, Diesel Oil, Violet Oil, Otto Oil, Sutra Oil, Standard Oil, and it goes without saying that they reached public domain status long before Popeye was hired by the Oil family to charter a boat voyage, according to that story. He became the main character in the strip by popular demand from the public. Now, icons often change as their creators gradually figure out the most effective way to design them. Along those lines, you'll have to wait another year for the more familiar cheeky design. Also, the spinach power-up won't be available for 2 more years, as that didn't find its way into the strip until 1931. The cartoon made by the famous animation pioneers, the Fleischer brothers, didn't air until 1933, and the famous Popeye the Sailor Man song came with it. So that will also be off limits for right now. Also, specific Popeye voice mannerisms developed by voice actors William Costello and Jack Mercer. Now, like the indie studio took advantage of Winnie the Pooh's entry into the public domain and made Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, there's a similar venture with Popeye the Slayer Man, and oddly enough, as shown in the trailer, it's set in an abandoned spinach factory, and Popeye's seen downing a can of spinach. Maybe there's no power up from it, or who knows. I can't help but wonder if the filmmakers here didn't do their homework, and or had the right legal consultation.
But enough of that production, since suffice it to say, at minimum, the original Popeye concept is fair game.
Tintin, created and published by Belgian cartoonist Georges Prosper Remy, known by the pen name Hergé. But now, anyone can publish Tintin and his dog Snowy in any media form except in his native Belgium. Tintin was a young reporter who embarked on swashbuckling adventures that had elements of mystery, fantasy, and science fiction.
You want to write a Tintin story? Just make sure you do your research to make sure you're not writing something that was part of one of his stories post-dating 1929.
Buck Rogers was one of the big space sci-fi trailblazers. He predated Flash Gordon, who many say was a copycat of Buck Rogers. His first story in 1929 was Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, in which he, in the present day of the time, and by freak accident, was kept alive in suspended animation until the 25th century, where he could become part of that world's adventures. That was the creative team's opportunity to let their imaginations run wild with the projected 25th century technology.
But same warning with Buck Rogers as with Tintin. Make sure you do your research.
My video last year was about new entries in the public domain at the start of 2024, and I mentioned the big breakthrough of the big icon in Mickey Mouse in his first 3 cartoon shorts produced in 1928, Steamboat Willie, Plain Crazy, and Galloping Gaucho. So no surprise 13 more of those shorts from 1929 have just reached public domain status. The Barn Dance, The Opry House, When the Cat's Away, The Barnyard Battle, The Plowboy, The Carnival Kid, Mickey's Follies, Mickey's Choo Choo, The Jazz Fool, Wild Waves, what I mentioned before, Jungle Rhythm, and The Haunted House. But a few of these deserve a big spotlight because of the milestone reached by them. The Carnival Kid, first time Mickey speaks, just not with the voice you'd expect.
Hot dog! Hot dog!
But we get closer to that in Mickey's Choo Choo. The more scraggly voice dominates in subsequent shorts, but we get back to the high voice in The Haunted House.
Yes, ma'am.
And we get the first pie-eyed Mickey in The Jazz Fool.
So people are now more free to use Mickey and more of his familiar characteristics. But not just Mickey Mouse shorts from Disney, but other generic shorts from Disney.
El Terrible Toreador, Hell's Bells, Springtime.
And then you have a nostalgic Halloween favorite of mine,
But it goes without saying that there are many 1929 other cartoons going into public domain from other studios. But the next one I want to highlight came from the Fleischer Brothers. Yeah, back to them. But in 1929 they gave us Finding His Voice, which ran some very entertaining cartoon and character antics around a showcase of how sound is worked into cartoons. And what stands out here that puts the Fleischer Brothers ahead of Disney in this respect, it's the extensive vocal interactions between characters.
While on the other is a film, moving at exactly the same speed as the picture camera in the studio. The greatly amplified voice currents passing through these tiny light valve strings move them closer together or further apart.
Again, this is where talkies were becoming the norm, so that means many early talkies are making that big transition. What I find to be the most noteworthy,
when Batman creators were first coming up with the ventriloquist Arnold Wesker, I have to wonder if they came up with him after they watched this movie, because yes, here the dummy takes control.
We can't cut her back. Don't you know that?
In Thunderbolt, we have a classic case of the innocent man looking to clear his name after being thrown in prison and needs the help of a shady gangster fellow inmate before his execution to clear his name, and that just might create another difficulty for him. Check it out. Then there's Broadway Melody, the first talkie to win Academy Award for Best Picture. You've also got the 1929 production of the Sherlock Holmes story, The Hound of the Baskervilles, and that's a silent film. Again, talkies were becoming the norm in 1929. But my own favorite 1929 movie, Alfred Hitchcock's first talkie, Blackmail. It tells the story of a woman ditching her boyfriend after an argument, whose subsequent spur-of-the-moment date attempts to rape her
before she manages to grab hold of a knife.
From there, she hopes to avoid facing any prosecution and having to prove her innocence. There's a blackmailer out there. It starts out making you think it's a silent film with a noiseless action in the beginning, but dialogue quickly takes over. While it's an obvious early talkie, it's an engaging crime drama. Also, several Laurel and Hardy shorts came out that year, and along those lines, Coconuts, the first Marx Brothers movie.
But it's a wonderful thing that so many films are going into public domain where they become readily available on free streaming services at our own disposal, like YouTube. But that's my take on what's going into public domain this year. Agree, disagree, or something too hot to leave out that I left out? Please let me know in the comment section. The link to order the Sledge comic miniseries is in the link below in both digital and paper format. Give it a look. But let's all look for civility amid all the bad news out there about social and political strife. Let's not hate. Let's find friends wherever we may go. Let's make it that one of our New Year's resolutions. Everyone be safe and God bless.